Welcome back, guys. Today I'm going to show you how to make a sprinkler sled. Let's get started. So on one side of my yard I have this narrow path of grass and it goes all the way back to my backyard. The problem with this is setting a sprinkler and moving it and setting a sprinkler and moving it is kind of annoying. So what I'm going to do is build my own sprinkler sled out of PVC and these 360 in-ground sprinkler heads. These are made by Rainbird. You can, I think Hunter makes some, and so does Orbit. I just went with Rainbird. Already tested them out. My water pressure and water flow, I can only get about two, maybe three of these in a line. So for this project, I'm just gonna use two. I may end up building a sled for 3 in a row. But at this point in time, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put one on each end of one of these PVC pipes. This is a 10-foot PVC pipe, and these reach about, it says 8 to 15 feet, and I can tell you right now it goes about 10 to 12. So since these are only 10-foot poles, I can extend them if I needed to, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put one on that end and then one at that very end over there. So these are 1/2 inch threaded on the bottom, and I believe it's NPT. Yep, NPT thread. And so I got little extenders, looks like a little all thread, and so these will go on the bottom here. And then I've got little, I'm using 3/4 pipe here, so I got 3/4 pipe with 1/2 inch NPT thread here, so I can put them in line here, one at the very back end and one at the very front. And then in order to get stability, because obviously if we put them on this line, this is going to roll at any time, I'm going to put kind of a T at the very end, and that's when I got these little caps here. And then I've got a splitter here, so at the very end, so I can run cap on the ends. And then a little connector for a sprinkler, or well, for a hose. So let's go ahead and get started here. So here I'm going to measure out 2 feet for each of the legs and make a mark so that way I can cut them down to size. I'm going to use a hacksaw to cut the PVC pipe. However, you could probably use a circular saw, might be an easier cut, or a miter saw. But for this purpose I'm going to use a hacksaw. So let's cut down the 2-foot sections of PVC pipe. I highly recommend not putting your hand that close, but I had to do it for stability when I was starting the cut. I use the 2 2x4s for it to be off the ground so I can cut through it. But I recommend putting this on the table so that way you can clamp the 2x4s down or the PVC pipe down so it doesn't move on you like it is now. So we got the first one done, and here moving on the second side. So I got to thinking, I said you only need 2 of these, but you're going to actually need a third one. Not quite 2 feet, but you're going to need one to fit between the fitting of the sprinkler near the T, and then you're going to need one between that one and then the T at the very top. So later on I just cut it down off camera. Now you want to take some sandpaper and sand down the inside and outside edges so you can get rid of the debris, as you see here. You definitely want to get rid of that so it doesn't get caught up in the sprinkler. You won't need to sand down the outside very much because when it masks together, it'll mask with the cement with the primer. So you're going to do everything that you did on the cut edges. If you didn't cut the edge, you won't need to do it with it. To make sure everything's lined up properly, we're going to go ahead and dry fit it all. So here's the T at the very end, and then these are the legs for the stability, so that way it doesn't flop back and forth on each side. Each end of these get little caps, so I'll put a cap on each end. And then this is where I forgot I needed a little extension between the T and my first sprinkler. Here we go. So we're going to go ahead and put the inlet for the water right here on the first sprinkler head, and then we're going to make sure that everything's lined up properly. Then I use a speed square to make sure that it's straight 90 up. That way everything is spraying straight up in the air. And then I'm going to take a pen or a marker and put a mark on each side, so that way when I put it back together and glue it together, so when it's permanent, I can put the pieces back to where they need to be exactly. I don't have to redo this. So let's move to the next one here. The reason why I do this as well is so that way it's a little overkill, but at the end of the day, I know it's straight up and down. But we want to do this because we want to make sure that the water is spraying straight up in the air. We don't want one sprinkler kind of angled to the side a little bit and the other one straight up and down, because then you are watering inconsistently. Now we're going to take it back apart so that we can glue the pieces back on. I did individual pieces at a time. Obviously you don't want to put primer on and then glue later. You definitely want to primer it and then glue it when the primer is wet for this application. The primer is going to be the purple stuff. So as you can see, I will go ahead and put that on the inside of the outside piece here, and then also get it on the pipe. I probably overdid it, so any comments on that, that's great. But you get the primer on the outside, make sure it's on all the pieces that's going to go in, as far as it goes in as well. Make sure that that's on there. And then you take the glue while the primer is wet, and you go ahead and put it on where you put the primer. And then it's going to be ready to, got to figure out where I'm going to put it. And then it's going to be ready to put it together. And this is where those marks come in play, because I want to make sure that it's 90 degree for the sprinkler head. But I can line those marks up and we're good to go. I'm not going to go ahead and show you every piece that I put together, but as you can see, anything that's being put together with the PVC as a slide in, you definitely want to glue together. The amount of time it takes for the glue to dry is very quickly. I think once I glued this all together, I spent maybe 30 minutes cleaning up a little bit, and then I was able to put water on it and it was fine. Now, since the sprinklers are threaded, we want to definitely put some thread sealer tape on so that way it does not leak through the threads. So here I'm going to put some thread tape on both ends of the threads on the male to connector. Once I have it all taped, I can now thread it into the pipe. And you're not going to want to crank it down, but you're going to want to get it a little bit tight. The thread tape will help seal it pretty well. So I want to move on to the next one as well, make sure they're both done. So now here we have it. We got a little sprinkler sled for my narrow side of grass. So now I can hook the hose up to the PVC pipe and let her water the grass, and this sprinkler head should touch the sprinkler head over there for water, and it should go past that sprinkler head as well. Since it's a 360, about 12 to 15 feet, probably more closer to 12 feet. So now all I have to do down my narrow stretch of grass here, you just set it in the grass and just pull it along every 20 minutes or so, depending on how much or how long it takes to put down a ½ inch of water. Now that that's complete, let's go ahead and check it out and see how well it does. And of course it's raining now, but here's the end result. So now all I have to do is let it run for about 15 to 20 minutes. I measured out how much water it puts down to get a ½ inch of rain or water. So now after about 20 minutes I can pull the line and pull it down towards me, and then let it go again, and then keep going down this path right here. So there you go.